Welcome back to the channel, dear viewers. Tonight, we delve into a tale that uncovers deep family secrets and sparks a heated conflict. The story is titled, I Discovered My Stepdad Abandoned His Kids and Kept It Secret for Years, Now My Family is in Chaos. Join me as we unravel the events that turned a seemingly perfect family life upside down. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this shocking story. I moved an hour away, started a job over the summer, and became close with a few coworkers. One of them and I have become actual friends outside of the office, and she's integrated me into her friend circle. After getting to know her backstory, Mom was abandoned while pregnant and had to raise 3 kids. We got close, and I consider her a good friend now. She's so sweet and nice. Last weekend, I was over at her mom's house getting ready to go out, and was looking at some pictures on her wall, and I saw one of her younger brothers and a man, and did a double take. He looks exactly like my stepfather, but younger. I tried to find another he was in, but that was it. She saw me staring at it and said that's her father, and I laughed and said he looks like my stepdad. She asked me his name, and I said it, and the color of her face left. She started calling her mom to come to the room, and the next 10 minutes consisted of me awkwardly answering their questions. Turns out my stepdad is her father. I met him when I was 6, so my friend would have been 8, and that's the time he left. He never mentioned having any kids, so it was shocking. It was horrible to hear them cry, and we never went out. I told them that he has a successful business, and maybe they could get money for back child support, but they said they didn't want anything from him. I went home this week, and things have just been awkward. My stepdad is so nice, and literally my only father figure, so to know he abandoned his biological kid is crazy. My stepdad just kept asking me why I'm acting weird, and I didn't say anything at first. My mom pulled me aside, and I told her everything. To my surprise, she didn't react. She said how he lives his life is his business, and I shouldn't judge him. This is coming from a former single mother. I remember her crying over my dad leaving us, and I was disgusted by what she said, so I told her loudly not to speak to me, and she's a hypocrite and stormed out of the house. My stepdad followed me to my car, saying that I needed to come back and apologize to my mom right now, and I told him to go and apologize to the kids he abandoned and listed their names. I told him to take care of his actual children. He looked like he would faint and went back inside the house. My mom has been sending me texts that I need to apologize to my stepdad for being an idiot to him and making him cry for days, and that he raised me and took care of me, and that I shouldn't forget that, and that if he didn't do what he did, I would be the one without a dad and to be grateful. I haven't replied back. Am I really the idiot? You need to apologize? Wow, the gall. You've discovered that your stepfather is not who you thought he was. He and your mom told you a massive lie of omission for your entire life. He and your mom walked away from innocent children he was legally and morally responsible for. The fact that he raised you and cared for you has very little bearing on this new information you've discovered. It's okay to be appalled and take time to process this shock, and for God's sake, you don't need to be the one apologizing, and you are not the idiot. Am I the only one who thinks her mom might have been the other woman who he left his family for? The timing seems suspect, plus her lack of reaction says a lot. Oof. It should go without saying that any parent who abandons their parental responsibilities is an idiot, but your mom? Oh boy, let's just say that if you ever find yourself on a lifeboat with limited food and water, make sure to sit outside pushing distance. Stepdad came into OP's life when she was 6. Her friend would have been 8 then, and that's when he left their family, so it adds up. I mean, it could have been a random chance that they met quickly after, but his willingness to jump into stepdadhood after abandoning his children so wholly also makes me feel like your theory's correct. If OP wants to know the truth, she may want to start with her friend's mom. I cannot imagine her mom or stepdad ever admitting that OP's mom knew, was in on it, or was the other woman. Wow. OP's mom is a cruel, cold woman. How awful to find out that both people who raised you are so selfish. I would hope that her friend would understand that OP isn't the bad guy here, but it may be hard for them to be around the person their father raised when he didn't stick around to raise them. For me personally, if I was the abandoned child, it would be too hard. Like, I couldn't imagine hearing stories about OP doing things with my father that he should have done with me. Update, I talked to mom and stepdad. They're saying the past is none of my business, and that even if it was, screaming to him to take care of his kids isn't the way to go about it, and that I only care about my feelings and no one else, which makes me wrong in this situation. My mom is saying my stepdad didn't do anything wrong to me, so he has nothing to apologize to me about, and I need to make a sincere apology soon. She's saying that I told him about the kids in the worst way possible, and I only said it to hurt him, so it makes me no better than him, and even worse. I'm planning a wedding and deciding everything regarding the guest list. Given the venue's small size, we have a hard cap of people allowed. We can only have 105 people. Anything after that would not be allowed due to fire codes and venue policy. I have an older sister, Mia, whose life is a bit of a mess. She and her latest ex-partner, and the dad of one of her kids, broke up in the last 6 months. She has 4 kids, who are all living at my parents' house for now. We opted not to have a child-free wedding, after there was so much drama about it. Mia's 4 kids, preschoolers to tween, will be at our wedding. She recently got an invite stating her name and her 4 kids' names. She then called me and said, I assume as an adult, I also get a +1. We told her no. She's not in a serious relationship, and she and her kids are already about 5% of our total guest list. Our caterer also doesn't charge less for kids, so we're paying about $400 for those 4 kids to be there. We don't want to pay another $100 for some random that she'd bring. She's not dating anyone, but she said she could easily find a date or bring a friend to have someone to dance with. We told her she has 4 kids there, which should be more than enough, instead of having a +1. My dad is on my side and is tired of her taking up their house. My mom is a little more sympathetic and says I should allow her to have a +1, because that's what you do for adults. Spending $600 on just my sister, her kids, and a date, when she's not seeing anyone seriously, seems ridiculous. She's pretty ticked off though. Am I being the idiot here? Not the idiot. I think you're being very generous in allowing her 4 children to attend, and she had the nerve to ask for an additional person? Wow, she's a bit of a choosy beggar, isn't she? It's your wedding and your money. If she wants to bring a +1, then let her pay the $100 it's going to be to feed that person. If your mom is all for it, then she can pay for your sister to have a +1. It's really cute that she wants to wine and dine someone at your expense, a person you've never met, and that she's not in a relationship. The wedding and reception are about the married couple after all. Who does she expect to babysit her children while she's dancing anyway? Are other people going to have to forego the dancing and babysit so she can have a good time? She can hire a babysitter and leave the kids at home and get a +1. Or she can bring her kids and no +1. Let her choose. You win either way. She's broke, so there are no babysitters, and I'm not even expecting to get a gift from her. She didn't get a gift from my other sibling last year because money was too tight. I honestly don't care about the gift thing, but I'm already paying roughly $500 for her and her family, and an extra $100 just feels unreasonable given she's already bringing 4 extra guests. My partner and I are paying for the entire wedding ourselves. Then that's your answer. No means no, and you shouldn't have to justify it to anyone. It's your wedding and your money. Don't let anyone bully you into doing something you don't want to do. Your sister will be fine without a +5. My brother has 2 kids, ages young teen and tween, with his ex. They were high school sweethearts who had kids young, never married, and split when the kids were still little. They mostly always shared custody of the kids, but for about 8 months in 2017, the kids were primarily with my brother because his ex was homeless. She got herself together again, and she got married in 2020. Her husband has 3 or maybe 4 kids, and ever since she remarried, she's been asking my brother to include her stepkids in stuff that he does with my niece and nephew, like when he took them to Disney or when he took them to the aquarium, etc. My brother has always told her no and ignored her attempts to get him more involved. The kids don't like their step-siblings very much or their mom's husband when they do see him. It sounds like he's mostly absent, so they've never wanted them included in time with their dad. Lately, she's decided that since my brother isn't giving in, she'd focus on me and ask me to do these things with the kids. My husband, the kids, and I often do things with my brother and the kids. She knows this. She asked me in person a couple of times if I'd like to bring her stepkids along with us or watch out for them. I told her no. I told my brother. He told her to knock it off. Then a couple of weeks ago, my nephew came to me and said his mom wanted him and his sister to ask me to bring the stepkids along to a water park trip we had planned for May. He said they didn't want them to come, but his mom would be up his butt about it if he didn't ask. He said she wouldn't accept it when they told her I wouldn't say yes. So, I told him I would speak to his mom. So, I called her and she started as though I had already said yes. I told her I was calling to say no and stop asking. She told me I should give it a shot and that the kids are missing out and how great it would be for my niece and nephew. She said she'd have them ready and introduce us better before the weekend so the kids and I know each other. She said it would give the kids time to do stuff with their siblings. I told her that she needs to quit trying to pawn her stepkids off of my brother and me because she's been told no each time and it's getting closer to harassment and it's unfair to drag the kids in the middle. She told me she was looking out for her stepkids and I'm a nasty witch. My brother is so tired of her, but he can't do anything other than ignore her request. He's tried, but she doesn't want to listen. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So, she expects others to do her parenting, give her a break from her parenting, and pay for strangers' kids. Just because she said so? But she had a good reason from her perspective, so others should put up with it? The level of egocentrism is off the charts. This woman clearly does not want children, so why does she have some? And why did she marry a man with kids? Be prepared for the ding-dong ditch my kids approach of leaving them on your doorstep and driving off. When that happens, let her know in no uncertain terms. You will call the cops for child abandonment. A ring camera might be a good idea, too. It sounds exhausting, but you're doing the right thing by holding firm on your boundaries. I can understand that it's hard for the mom to see her family not get along, but she chose to marry someone with children that her existing children don't seem to like. The best thing she can do would be to stop forcing everyone to be one big happy family and just give her kids space to come around on their own terms. My husband, 51, and I, 48, female, have 6 children. Our teen, Gianna, is a junior in high school, and our son, Riker, is in 7th grade. The kids are starting to have their school dances. The 7th grade dance is later this month, and the junior banquet is in early May. We've gone shopping for dress clothes for all the dances. We bought Gianna's dress a few weeks ago. Gianna has usually been a good kid throughout her life. This school year has been slightly harder than others, though. Around 2 months ago, we got a call from Gianna's choir teacher saying that Gianna and a few other altos were making insulting jokes about some of the new pieces she introduced, including an Urdu song and a song from the Honduras. We talked to Gianna about her actions, and we made her write an apology to her teacher and write a 5-paragraph essay on why it's important to respect music from other cultures. Riker has a friend from his baseball team who is Honduran. He was born here, but his mom was born in Honduras, and his dad is mixed. When Riker heard about this, he was quite mad, and he asked if he could have his friend come over and teach her about the culture there. We allowed this, and he came over with his parents, and they made food, and Riker and his friend talked about sports and music there. Gianna was very clearly not enjoying it, but we made her engage anyways. Our daughter and a group of her friends, including her boyfriend, got in trouble last week for making the same jokes again. We took her phone to investigate where this hatred could come from. Riker had his friends over for a sleepover the night we found out about this. During dinner, the boys were talking about how their coach would never let them live through it if they bullied a kid or made that kind of joke. My husband and I tried helping guide them through their feelings, like asking them about the diverse athletes they liked. Gianna was hanging out with friends at the mall that night, some of whom were doing dress shopping for the upcoming dance. Unfortunately, our son and the boys decided to use this as an opportunity to trash the dress, using mud, drinks, and cutting a few holes in the dress. We found out when Gianna came home, entered her room, and saw the dress. The boys were laughing, and Riker said they did it because Gianna didn't deserve to go to the banquet, saying how there could be kids that looked like his Honduran friend. We told Riker we were trying our best to educate her in a very white town. We're also white. We told him that this was the wrong way to take out his anger, and that as a result, he couldn't go to a 7th grade dance. Riker told us to shut up and spent the rest of his night in his room with the boys. Riker texted my parents and siblings, as well as my in-laws, and a few have called us and come to his defense, saying he's just a kid who was trying to cope with anger. So, now we're unsure if we are in the wrong. Am I the idiot? Edit. We haven't decided if Gianna's allowed to her dance yet, but she's already had her phone taken away as a punishment, though. You are the idiot. I don't understand how destroying a dress comes with a bigger punishment than getting in trouble for the same crime twice. What he did was wrong, but the fact that your daughter's still getting to go to her dance and out with the friends also seems like the wrong response, so I can understand why he's angry. Yeah, like is the daughter some golden child or what? Maybe the son sees the lack of true punishment or consequences as her getting away with it and is understandably angry about it. OP royally messed up here, and their half-baked solution is only going to make things worse. I agree, an appropriate punishment would be making him pay back the cost of the dress or a new one, but I honestly wouldn't punish him. I'd explain how what he did was wrong, but you're proud of him for sticking up for his friends against his awful sister. And you are the idiot for even allowing your daughter to still go to the dance. Obviously, whatever you're doing with your daughter isn't changing her mind. Maybe take a look at yourself and how you contributed to raising a brat. My parents are having people from their home country come for a visit. They told me that for the 4 weeks that the guests were here, I was to vacate my room and sleep in the basement on an inflatable mattress. I, female 26, have only been living with them because they insist. I have a job and have been working and saving money since I was 16. I didn't need their help to pay for college, and I paid them rent for my room, as well as buy groceries and help out around the house. I told them that if they wanted a guest room, then I could move out. Several condo developments in my area have units ready for immediate possession, and I have almost enough to buy one outright. I have no debt, thanks to living at home for the last 4 years. They say that I'm being ungrateful and argumentative. I don't think it's fair to kick me out of a room I rent for nearly a month. They didn't even offer me the choice not to pay for the month I don't have any room. Not the idiot, but at 26, you don't ask to move out. You sign a lease and then tell them the date you're moving out, and make sure you already have important stuff: computer, laptop, passport, driving license, social security card, etc., safe, before you tell them, just on the off chance that they throw everything away while you're at work. If you're paying rent, you have a right to your room. Imagine if a roommate asked you to pay rent, but also give up your room. Or a landlord. An actual unrelated landlord wouldn't be able to force you to stay in a different unit or room than the one you rent for their guest. Consider this a sign and a blessing to move out. At 26, you're too old to have to put up with this kind of behavior from your family. And that, dear viewers, is how a chance discovery led to the unraveling of a long-held family secret. If you are captivated by this tale and want to hear more stories of family conflicts and unexpected revelations, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts and similar experiences in the comments below. Have you ever faced a family drama that took you by surprise? Until next time, remember, understanding and communication are key to navigating the complexities of. Welcome back to channel, where we delve into the complexities of relationships and the bonds that tie us together. Today's story is one that will shake you to your core. It's titled, Caught Cheating, Husband Hires Private Investigator, Shocking Footage Revealed. Get ready to experience a tale of trust shattered and the pursuit of truth, as we uncover the secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Tell something was up, but I didn't press. She said she was tired. So I went with it over the next few days. I started noticing that she was on her phone quite a bit, even around dinner time. I would ask, why is she texting a lot these days? And she would tell me that she was in a group chat, talking with her girlfriends about the girls' night out they had and planning another one. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was constantly texting her girlfriends. It was nothing new, but looking back now, I realized she was probably planning something with them that she didn't want me to know about. My wife works as a consultant for a big firm and would always come home stressed. So I didn't mind her having a night out with her girlfriends every so often. But now she is talking about another girls' night out. This will be the second girls' night out coming up in less than 3 weeks. The bad thing is, these women she hangs out with, 4 of them are all single. She is the only married one of the bunch, which in my opinion is not a good thing because it means she is the only one with something to lose. The other women are footloose and fancy-free. I don't want my wife to be a cheater, but I also don't want to control her or tell her what she can and cannot do. So, her second girls' night out came and went. I told her the next day that she needed to be careful and make sure her single friends didn't cause her to fuck up her marriage. She looked at me funny, but didn't say anything. After work one day, I stopped by my parents' house and talked to them about my frustration with my wife participating in these frequent girls' night out parties. I told my mom that the women she hangs out with are all single and none of them have anything to lose. My mom looked at me and said, "Well, I don't see anything wrong with a girls' night out, but I do see a problem with a girls' night out with only single women." My mom said she is playing with fire. Then my dad chimed in and said, "Yeah, if I were you, I would put my foot down and tell her that's enough." He also said the fact that she keeps going out to party without you is a major cause for concern. Then my mom jumped in again and said she did a girls' night out with her friends. 3 times in the 40 years, my parents have been married, but my mom's girlfriends were all married. Mom said they were home by 11 p.m. They didn't stay out later than that. I thought about what they said on my way home and I decided they were right. I needed to nip this in the bud before it got out of hand. When I got home, I talked to my wife about it and she got angry saying I was being controlling and didn't trust her. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to control her. I just wanted her to be careful because I loved her. She didn't want to hear it and went to bed angry. The next day she left for her girls' night out. She didn't even come home from work. This was her 3rd girls' night out. I did not even know about this one. My wife didn't get home until after 2 in the morning. I didn't say anything. I just waited up for her. I pretended to be asleep. When she entered the bedroom, I decided I needed to find out what was going on and why she wanted to leave her family and party with her girlfriends on the way to work the next day. I called a friend of mine and asked him, did he still have the contact information for the private investigator he used for his company? A little backstory. My friend had an employee who was trying to get workman's comp for having an accident on the job. His employee was complaining after the accident that he couldn't come to work. So my friend promptly hired a private investigator. Turns out he wasn't injured at all. He was playing golf, played in a flag football league. Needless to say, he dropped the workman's comp claim. My friend gave me the number of the private investigator he used. He then asked me, was everything okay? I told him I wasn't sure. And I indicated that I think my wife is doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. I said, she has been going out and doing these so-called girls' night out parties. My friend then asked me what made me think my wife was cheating. I told him about the 3 times she had gone out recently and stayed out until after midnight, coming home, smelling of alcohol. I also told him that when I confronted her about it, she got angry and defensive. He then said to me, well, it sounds like you have enough. I called the private investigator and set up an appointment to meet him after work. I met the private investigator and he asked me what I wanted him to do. I told him I wanted him to follow my wife and see what she was doing when she went out on her so-called girls' night out. The private investigator told me his fee was $100 per hour. And I said, I didn't care. I just wanted to know what my wife was doing. I gave the private investigator a picture of my wife. I told him what kind of car she drove, where she worked and what hours she worked. The private investigator told me he would start following my wife the next day. I waited impatiently for the private investigator to call me and tell me what my wife was doing. Finally, after 3 days, he called me. The private investigator told me to meet him after work. He had some footage to show me. He showed me footage of my wife leaving work in different clothes that day. On that day, she didn't leave for work in those clothes. She changed at work. He followed her to a bar. He went in and noticed she went to a table with a bunch of women, which were her girlfriends. They were there for about 2 hours. Then they all left. He followed them to a house about 15 minutes from the bar. He noticed a guy answered the door and they all went in. The private investigator was dressed in black. He tells me that at night, it helps him get closer for his surveillance. He walked up to a window at a slight distance and noticed all the girls were dancing, grinding on a few guys. And my wife was in the corner with some guy. He was squeezing her butt and she was kissing him. After that, he looked at me and told me, I think you have enough to do what you need to do. He handed me this flash drive and he told me he will keep a copy just as a precaution. After meeting with the private investigator, I went home and cried. I couldn't believe my wife of 9 years had cheated on me and she was still doing it. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't want to show her the footage. The next day I got up and left for work without saying anything to my wife. She sent me a text on the way to work, asking why I didn't say anything to her. When I left, I did not respond to the text. When I got to work, I made it a point to call a few divorce lawyers to see what I was dealing with and how I could protect myself. I also started looking for a place to stay because I knew there was no way I could stay in the house with my wife. I will miss the boys, but their mother did this. I was absolutely devastated. My whole world had been turned upside down and I didn't know how to fix it. The only solution was divorce. I wasn't going to try and fix our marriage. She wants this single life. She can have it. I had to be strategic because I didn't want the boys to be alone while their mother went out on her girls' night out. I live in Massachusetts, which is a no-fault state, that much I know. So divorce should be pretty easy. When I got home that night, my wife was home sitting on the couch with the boys. I walked in and she asked how my day was. And the boy smiled at me and said, "Hey Dad," I wanted to cry, but I had to hold it in. A few hours go by and everyone is winding down. My wife puts the boys to bed and comes downstairs and asks me if I want to watch a movie with her. I said, no, I don't think so. She then said, okay, I'm going to bed. I waited until she was in bed to go upstairs and get my stuff and leave. I waited until she fell asleep before I left the house. I didn't have anywhere to go yet. So I went to my parents'. It was late. My dad was worried and asked me, was I okay? I told him I had something to show him. We sat down at the dining room table. I pulled up the footage that my private investigator compiled and showed my dad what the private investigator found. And my dad was in disbelief. My mom came downstairs and I showed her too. They were both speechless. I told them I was moving out and getting a divorce. They didn't say anything to try and stop me. I'm sure they were disappointed, but what could they say? My wife had cheated on me and I was done. I stayed at my parents' house that night. The next morning I got up, I sent my boss a text and told him that I would be coming in late. I was honest with him and he didn't have a problem with it. After talking to my boss, I noticed my wife had sent me hundreds of text messages, wondering where I was and why I left last night. I didn't respond to any of them. I found an attorney and filed for divorce based on the grounds of adultery. And I moved out of the house. I went back to the house when I knew my wife wouldn't be there. And I left a note on the kitchen counter. I told her that I had filed for divorce and that she could find me at my parents' house if she needed anything. After work, I drove to my parents' house and I saw my wife's car parked in the driveway. I went inside and I saw my wife sitting at the kitchen table crying. She asked me why I filed for divorce and I slowly pulled out my phone and showed her the footage and told her that I did not deserve this. I didn't deserve the way you were treating me. We sat and talked for a while and we both decided it would be best if we divorced. I told her I didn't want the house. We were renting it anyway, so she could have it. She makes enough money to pay for it. At the divorce hearing, it was amicable. The judge gave me 30 days to get the rest of my things. I didn't go after her for alimony. I made more than her and I didn't have to pay child support. She was getting that from the kid's father already. We are both the same age, 33, and the boys are 7 and 8. It was heartbreaking because I loved those boys like they were my own and I was their father in every way, but biologically. My job offered me a position out of state and I took it, changed my phone number. Only my parents and a few friends have my new number and started a new life. It's been almost a year now and I'm doing well. I've started dating again and I'm in a much better place emotionally. My friends have told me that my ex-wife was asking about me and she even tried to reach out to me on social media. But I have no desire to speak to her or see her again. I'm glad I made the decision to move on with my life. And I hope you can do the same if you're in a similar situation. Thanks for reading. I have never shared anything about my life on these forums, but this was heartbreaking for me. I still struggle at times, but one day at a time is how I am dealing with it. Thank you for joining us for this emotional journey. If you've been moved by today's story or have your own experiences to share, please leave a comment below. And remember, no matter how difficult the truth may be, it's always better to face it with courage and integrity. Stay tuned for more heartfelt stories. Greetings, my dear viewers. Today, I invite you to delve into a tale of love shattered by betrayal, trust eroded by deception, and hearts torn asunder by infidelity. Join me as we explore the harrowing journey of a husband who uncovers his wife's unfaithfulness and the painful aftermath that follows. Welcome to Caught My Wife Cheating, Unraveling the Betrayal, a story of deception and heartbreak. She all but stopped messaging me during the day. And when she did, it was short things about dinner or other trivial items. She started going grocery shopping alone, needed her time. This is something we used to do together. She has always gone running after work and on weekends, but now with it getting too dark and cold, her running on the weekends have turned into 3 to 4 hour events. She moved out onto the couch saying I moved around too much and she couldn't sleep. The couch then became the guest bedroom. That's when I finally confronted her. She said that she was texting the other man because he had been open about his mental health issues. She has struggled with anxiety and depression for a while, but we had it under better control with counseling and medication. She even initially told me she was going to talk to him, and because I knew him, he goes to our church and is our insurance guy. I foolishly thought that would be okay. On November 14th, I asked her if she still loved me and she said yes, but she hasn't been happy for quite a while and it's been a difficult year and she wasn't sure if she wanted to work on the marriage or not. I told her that I noticed that she hit her phone. Anytime I came into the room, that's when she told me who the other man was. She said that they texted and met sometimes for lunch, but he was just a friend. She said it over and over. As I asked questions about him, I got angry and incredibly sad at the same time and told her that it ceased being just friends when she felt like she had to hide it from me. I asked if she talked about me to him. She said she did. I told her that her affair hurt almost as bad as if she had slept with him. Over the next few days, I just could not shake the feeling that there was more going on than she told me. It's difficult because she says she doesn't want to work on the marriage. I looked at phone records and they call each other first thing in the morning. And during most lunches, then again, as soon as she gets off work, the phone call started on October 10th. So at least a month, she doesn't text him because they use Signal and I don't have access to her phone. Plus it deletes the messages as soon as you send them. Anyway, I talked to her again on Sunday and she said that they only talk and hug. I don't believe her. Maybe it's because of the lies and the broken trust, but I just feel like more is going on than she is telling me. She's currently in the process of finding a new place to live. She was going to wait until January, but I told her last night that I wouldn't be her plan B and that if she was waiting to move out to spare my feelings, to not worry about that. She put a deposit on a place today during her lunch hour. In Virginia, we must be separated for 6 months before we can divorce. As soon as she moves into her new place, that will start the separation time. I've left messages with a couple of divorce attorneys this week, but because of the holiday, they are slow getting back to me. I think I want to split amicably if possible, but I also want to know how far she has taken it. I feel this need to know if it was just an emotional affair or if it was a physical affair. Does it really matter though? Do I push it where she doesn't want to work on our marriage or just let her go and move on with my life? We've been married for 18 years and luckily have no children. I just feel so lost right now, lightheaded and in a fog. I appreciate any advice. Second story is called Caught My Wife Cheating, found out 2 months ago. I've been lurking on this site for a month now and finally decided to post. Short story is that my wife and I have been married since 1994. And I found out about 2 months ago that she has been engaged in a physical affair with a friend of ours for about 6 months. We are both in our mid to late 40s, both in decent shape. And we have a son who has grown and on his own. I will start off by saying that I have not been happy in my marriage for a good 15 years or so. Around 2005, she had an affair with a coworker. I was devastated. I busted her. She did all the crying and hemming and hawing, promising never to cheat again. I kicked her out for a couple of months. And we went to a crappy marriage counselor who basically blamed me for all her bad choices, thinking I was at fault for it all. I sucked it up and we went on and basically buried the whole thing. She was relieved and seemed happy with me, but I kept my mouth shut and just lived with it because I thought that is what a man was supposed to do. Looking back, that year was the year my soul started dying. Now I am relieved, almost ecstatic. You all do not need to console me because I am not in pain. If anything, I am happy because now I can divorce my cheater and get out of this fake marriage without having to feel like the bad guy or that I am in the wrong. She has given me the reason I have needed for 15 years to finally escape without my friends and family, making me out to be the villain. I can say with confidence that I have been a good husband to her all these years. Am I without any faults? No, of course not, but I have never done anything over the past 15 years to warrant this treatment. She knows full well that if she were caught again, then that would be it. Which leads me to believe this is an exit affair on her part. And she wants me to bust her. That is the feeling I get. Maybe I am wrong, but I have a hard time thinking she is that stupid to cheat again after what we went through before and expect me to forgive her again. So, over the past 2 months, I have gathered all the evidence I need to divorce her. I have not confronted her yet or had her served. I do want to eventually expose her to our friends and families in order to protect my own reputation. But I have some questions. 1. Should I wait until after the divorce is final to expose her to our families and the other guy's wife? If I expose now, word might get back to her employer and I don't want her getting fired. I made the stupid mistake of marrying and living in a state where alimony is mandatory. So, if she gets fired, then I'm on the hook. She makes more than me. If she doesn't lose her job, I could ask for alimony, but I won't. 2. How do I tell my son? He was just 6 when she cheated the first time. And even though he couldn't understand at the time, he saw what it did to us. And I think he was affected by our separation. He will be pissed at her, but I don't know any reason why I should lie to him. 3. Should I ask her to move out or try to keep things amicable until the divorce goes through and just live together? I want to keep the house, and in my divorce petition, I state that I will buy out her share of the equity for. I want to start dating again soon. Is there anyone here who went through a divorce where you live with your spouse, but dated other people, or is it best to wait? Third story, caught my wife cheating. She is bipolar. Egoish. I really could use some advice. My wife is bipolar and has suffered lots of abuse growing up, including abuse by a family member and abuse by her abuser ex-boyfriend who is in jail. I am a private investigator and task force agent. And I missed all the signs. Long story short, we met online as she was unconsciously seeking for a white knight experienced in helping abuse survivors and ended up falling for me within a month. And so did I. Due to COVID, our meeting in person got delayed for months. And after we married, I discovered she was an escort, sugar baby for 3 years. She started on it as to get back at her abusive boyfriend. And also because she was conditioned to be objectified since she was little. She basically stopped doing it around 4 months before we met in person. And we married 3 months after meeting many times. I was hurting because she disappeared. And now I know why she has cried, apologized, and says she feels lots of hate, shame, and disgust towards herself. I believe her. I went to the finish line and found all kinds of texts, emails, hard evidence on her emails, drives, and even some profiles she had at some sugar baby sites. Oh boy. I regret seeing some things. She was very sloppy and hiding stuff. And once I got access to one email, the Pandora box opened. She is a student. And before I supported her financially, she had no income and no prospect of getting a proper job. The lies and the denial, the way she gets defensive is really tough on me. I offered her financial help before we met and she didn't accept it. So, as you can see, she is not after my money. Not that I have much. How do I avoid lashing out? Our relationship and arguments can get dicey in seconds as she is bipolar. And I'm what's known as quiet borderline personality disorder, in which I suffer all the pain and lash at myself, not at her. Not a great combo, but the love we have for each other is gigantic. It's been only 1 month since I found out and I already forgave her. But, at the same time, I have not forgiven myself over not seeing the red flags. Now, I feel I have to be extra vigilant with her. And she has agreed to disclose all her communications with me as I have. And we basically don't leave any room for anyone to be meddling in our relationship. I want to trust her again, especially since it happened before the relationship was real. But, for me, it felt real since day one. She says she only did it once or twice a month to finance her studies. But, I don't know, most days I believe in her good nature and other days, I worry a cheater is always a cheater. I also feel that because it happened before our first kiss, I am being a bit oversensitive, but I was faithful for that whole year and I suffered intensely. Anytime I remember those days she disappeared, the pain comes back almost undiluted. It seems I'm on the final stages of grief. I've had a hard life and I get over stuff quick, but I still feel traumatized and with a little PTSD. What's the best way to disengage? When our arguments start, they go from 0 to 1000 in 2 seconds. And then the blame game starts. When we are good is the best, but when we are arguing is hell, too intense, too much fire, and both of us get super hurt very quick if the other is not careful. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I'm thrilled to have you join me today for another captivating story that will surely leave you both shocked and entertained. Today's tale revolves around an encounter with an entitled Karen that took an unexpected turn. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go. So, I work in a coffee shop. Most of our customers are genuinely lovely people, but over the years, I have learned about the levels of entitlement and just plain crazy that exist. To be honest, I didn't think anyone could surprise me anymore. Tonight's events might actually have surpassed the guy who put a curse on me and my family. The guy who threw a ceramic cup at my head one morning. The drunk girls who threw up all over the front door at 7 a.m. then walked in and got grumpy that we didn't have any vegan breakfast items. The time a guy managed to get himself so wound up that he started swearing at me because I hadn't laughed hard enough at his "if you can't find a product on the till, then it's free" joke. That I have previously never ever heard before. Ever. Honest. Yeah, okay. So today I was cleaning up like usual and for once, it was going pretty smoothly. One of those dream shifts where you look around and just know you're going to get out on time. No last-minute customers demanding you make drinks and mess up every piece of equipment you've just spent an hour cleaning. It was glorious. I did the usual rounds telling the last few stragglers that we were closing in 5 so if they could start finishing up and getting themselves ready and so on. And I went through to the office to start the admin. Now, one thing you need to know is our company policy states that you can't take the till off and count it until the doors are locked. Obviously, you can't lock the doors until all the customers have left. And this is usually not a problem. So I came back through to lock the doors and there she is. Let's call her Karen, okay? Karen is standing near the front door and emptying out the entire contents of her purse and pram all over a table. I looked at the girl who I was working with and raised an eyebrow. She's working with me long enough to recognize the what the hell is going on look. Apparently, Karen had lost an earbud. Great. So since she's been a regular customer for over a year, I put on my best customer service act and go across. We went back and checked where I knew she'd been sitting. Then check out the other table she had also been sitting at earlier. Turns out I never want to put my bare hands that far down the sides of the sofas again. We both searched and couldn't see anything. I offered for her to leave her details in case it turned up in the morning. I'm on early so I'd have another look tomorrow. But nope. This wasn't good enough. Before my eyes, this usually very normal, polite, pretty, reserved grown woman turned into a raging banshee. Screeching about how they are 150-pound earpods. Several things happened over the next half hour. Her husband appeared. Someone needs to give that man a medal, or maybe a CT scan. He quickly sussed out the situation and tried to talk some sense into her. She then started screaming about how she wasn't leaving until it was found. And she was calling the police. At one point, they were physically fighting over her phone while she dialed 999. And he was calling her crazy. Side note, never call a Karen crazy. It does not end well, my friend. I was standing to the side quietly watching this all unfold. Keys in one hand and phone in the other. While texting my boss what was going on and reminding her she really does not pay me enough to deal with this. Being the absolute champion boss she is, she called and heard some of that chaos going on in the background. Karen's poor husband continued to try and reason with her. There was a little more chat between me and him while she wailed down the phone at the police. She started demanding I go check the rubbish bags. Apparently telling her she was more than welcome to go check them herself. But they were in the skip bins at the back of the building. Was just not the right answer. Eventually, her extremely patient husband got sick of her so he left. At one point, she shouted at my colleague who asked her to move so she could finish mopping the floor, which set Karen off again. Her husband reappeared as she was kicking off at me again for stepping in and saying the girl didn't shout at her. And pointing out that after her behavior for the past 20 minutes, she was in no position to decide who is and is not shouting. It was at this point she finally pushed the limit of my patience when she said the words, "I am not leaving until you show me respect. You would treat me differently if I was from this country. Now something else you should know, I'm not actually from this country either. I might have the local accent but my birth certificate states something different. I'm also not white, so I take particular offense when someone tries to use a race card in a racist way. Sometimes people are just jerks and it has nothing to do with the skin color of anyone involved." So my restrained customer persona slipped. "I left one of those, are you kidding me?" Laughs. I said the words, "Did you actually just call me racist?" "Nope, I'm out." While her husband started having a go at her for being ridiculous, I went and grabbed a till and stormed off into the office, half expecting to come back out and find Karen chaining herself to the front door and chanting, "We shall not be moved." About 10 minutes later, 2 wonderful police officers showed up. Karen had suddenly turned into a timid and demure delicate little victim again while whining about her plight to these guys. They also quickly worked out what was going on. Apparently the call they got had said it was a domestic incident. It was clearly not a domestic incident. They spent 5 minutes searching the same areas and also found no AirPod in sight and suggested she leave her contact details for us to call her if it turned up in the morning. Karen thought this was a great idea. I pointed to the counter and said the pen and paper were still sitting there from when we offered that same thing an hour before. Granted it was a childish move, but after hearing the police officers ask him where her child was while she played with the AirPod, my last silver of understanding and patience evaporated. Turns out Karen had freely given her very expensive, arguably overpriced headphones to her 4-year-old child to play with, then flipped out and called the police when one went missing. Seriously, I can't even begin to explain how livid I was at this point. Needless to say, she was heavily scolded and warned by the police officers. She actually burst into tears and she is now barred from the premises by orders of my boss. Best boss ever. So, I've started to get into belly socks, butterfly knives, like a couple months ago. I love it very much and I have a couple of knives. I love to do it in public too, but when I'm around people I always use my crack racking version 2.5, basically a trainer knife so it doesn't have an edge. Today I was walking with my friends and I was playing with my trainer knife as usual, when a kid runs up to me. "Hi, what's that? Can I try it?" The kid was around like 9 or 10. "Sure, but do you have any of your parents here? Because I don't want to get in trouble." "Yeah, my mom is here." And he runs to his mother and comes back a couple of minutes later. "Mom, it's him. He has that thing." The kid was really excited at this point. "Can you show us some tricks please?" "Sure." So I started to do a couple of easier tricks like a thumb around. "Hey, put that knife away. You're gonna hurt us." "No, I can't do that, even if I wanted to. This is a training knife, so it's fully dull and doesn't have an edge." And then, I grabbed a blade. "Put that away or I'm going to call the police." "If you want to, you're going to be the only one who's in trouble." So we waited there until the police arrived. "Yep," she called him. "So, what seems to be the problem here? This young man has a knife and hurt us." Her kid says. "No, he didn't say anything wrong." The police officer turns to me. "Is that true? You've got a knife?" "Yes, officer. I've got one in my pocket. It's a butterfly knife, but it's a trainer so it doesn't have an edge. Can you show it to me?" Slowly. "Sure." And I reached into my pocket and handed it to the officer by the blade. "So he sees it doesn't have an edge. Okay, I see no problem here. Thank you, sir." And he started to hand me my knife, but the entitled parent snapped it out of the officer's hand and decided, I don't know why, to slap the officer. "Ma'am, put that knife down and put your hands behind your back. Now." "But I'm just doing what you can't do." Then she threw my knife full force to the ground. And the rest of the story was that the mother got arrested for lying to an officer, harming him, and damaging someone's property. And me and my friend stayed with the kid until his dad arrived. So without getting too political, we recently had an election in the USA. My aunt supported one side while her husband and adult offspring supported the other side. The election did not go the way my aunt wanted it to. Aunt proceeded to flip her crap, breaking things, yelling, and even going as far as to set her daughter's "I voted" sticker on fire. Her husband called the cops, declined to arrest her for anything, but suggested that she find a different place to stay for the night. This happened yesterday in New Jersey. Fast forward to 2 a.m. today. Here I am sleeping peacefully in my home with my family, over 500 miles from all that drama. My fence alarm goes off, waking me up. I don't know if it's a bear or a trespasser, so I get my pants on and grab my shotgun just to be safe. Turns out, my aunt cut the locks off my front gate because she couldn't get in, and I wasn't entering my phone. Why did she have bolt cutters in her car? So I safely stow my weapon and ask her what the hell. She starts crying and screaming. Mind you, this is at 2 a.m., in a quiet rural community, about how the devil took her family and they threw her out. And she says that since she has nowhere else to go, I need to let her in, so she can stay in my guest room for a while. I told her one of my guildies is using that room right now. The room is occupied. This person came from Texas all the way to West Virginia to hang out with me. I'm not gonna toss them out with 30 seconds of notice because my aunt showed up. So she decides to call the police and tell them that I'm keeping her from entering her home. We're out in the woods, so the cops don't get here quickly. 4:41 in the morning, the cops showed up. I see them talking to her in my driveway. She shows them the bolt cutters and the ruined lock. A few minutes later, the officer knocks on my door. Your tenant claims that. I immediately cut him off and told him that I do not have a tenant. I own and occupy this structure. Then I offered to show him the deed. Well, this woman claims that. I cut him off again. What does the address of her ID say? At this point, the cop is pissed at me. I can tell. So I try to de-escalate the situation. Look man, she doesn't live here. She has never lived here. That's my aunt. She lives in New Jersey. Please check her ID card. The cop calms down a bit and lets me know that he will talk to her and then comes back. 10 minutes later, the cops come back to my door. 3 of them this time. Not just the one from earlier. One of them had stripes and a rocker on his arm. He asks me if there is any way Aunt can stay here for the night. Because she's too drunk to drive, so he can't let her back on the road. This woman just drove from New Jersey to West Virginia drunk. Thank God she didn't kill anyone. I told him that she cannot stay here, but that I'm sure there is room in the local jail. The cop asks me if she can just sleep in her car in my driveway and leave in the morning. I told him absolutely not. When she wakes up in the morning, I would just have to call him to get her off of my property, so that would solve nothing, and I ask him to remove her from my property. Long story short, her car got towed and she is in a drunk tank for the night. I was a witness to this a long time ago and the results were learned by word of mouth. Once upon a time, there was a kid. Let's call him Marco. Marco was your everyday kid. A little skinny. I remember him being slightly geeky and if you left your pins unattended, he'd disassemble them before you turned back around in your seat at times. He was nice, polite and fairly helpful. This was middle school. One day though, he does it to a bully and let's call him Polo. Polo is huge but was fat. He looks like if you drill 3 holes into him, a giant could use him for bowling. He's not nice, he's not handsome and he's got a posse of equally disgusting friends who all gang up together to bully others. I suspect that if they hadn't ganged up with each other, they would have been bullied. Perhaps they had been in the past and got a taste of power over others when they ganged up. I don't know. I kept to myself. One day, I saw Marco with a swollen eye and wet hair. He's limping a bit too and his backpack is ripped. I ask him what the hell happened and turns out Polo threw him into a bathroom stall by his backpack which ripped. The toilet got him in a knee and Polo shoved his face into the water bashing his eye into the seat. I asked why Polo had done this to him and he says, I took his pin apart. It was just a big crystal or some cheap pin like that. Things escalate over the next few weeks. Eventually, Marco has to take time off when Polo strips him naked in the bathroom except for his boxers and makes him shove them into the toilet. The school, being full of your typical jerks, tries to expel Marco for damage to school property and does nothing to Polo. This is taught by video evidence of the gang leaving the bathroom, laughing and rifling through Marco's backpack, then tossing it in the trash. When Marco comes back, he's different. He's not happy. He's quite subdued and he doesn't talk to anyone and bruises magically appear on him between classes. He withdraws into himself and begins to look positively skeletal. Of course, no one at the school does anything except one nice jock. He comes across Polo stealing Marco's backpack and Polo into a trash can. Of course, he's suspended. But does it again when he comes back. The teachers give up on suspending the jerk after his parents threaten to sue. The fact that someone bothered to stand up for him, though, seems to have given life back to Marco. He starts opening back up and putting weight back on, which is very good. One day, though, he's wearing a scarf, a very special, beautiful knitted scarf. His grandfather had knitted for him. Yes, grandfather before he died. Polo steals it and comes back the next day with a bag of ashes, handing it to Marco. And he laughs hysterically. Marco comes back the next day with a backpack full of sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. Polo, being the glutton that he is, steals every single bag of bears and eats them by the throughout the day. Marco cries. But I remember something in his sobs didn't quite reach his eyes. Near the end of the school day, Polo lurches out of the classroom and pulls for the bathroom. He doesn't come back the next day. Or the next. Someone says they saw blood in the bathroom. Polo comes back a few days later with an eye patch and mottled, fading bruises all across his face. I believe it's called petechiae eye. He's permanently blind in his left eye and bruising makes him look like a ripening fruit for as long as it lasts. He's in and out of school for doctor's appointments for a while. He did not mess with Marco again and instead became very introverted and quiet. The reports of blood in the toilet of the bathroom he went to were never confirmed. But it's quite likely. Thank you for watching and see you next time. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Hello, lovely viewers, and welcome back to our storytelling session. Today's tale is one of shock, betrayal, and sweet, sweet revenge. Picture this: you come home early to surprise your beloved spouse, only to find them entangled with someone else in your own bed. It's the stuff of nightmares, isn't it? But what happens next is a plot twist you won't see coming. Join me as we delve into the story titled, I Came Home Early to Surprise My Wife and Found Her in Bed with Another Man, Here's How I Got My Revenge. What he then came home to was terrifying. He saw his wife in bed with her affair partner, but rather than confronting them, he recorded them for proof, then walked out and ghosted her. Now, she's history. Let's get into today's story to find out what happened. So, I went on a work trip for a week and told my partner of 3 years, ex, that I was coming home on Sunday, but I had actually booked a fly-in yesterday and take her on a surprise date for her birthday, which I otherwise would have missed. I messaged ex happy birthday yesterday morning and asked what she was doing for the day, to which she replied she would be having a wine and movies night with her friend, Y, who lives in our apartment block. I reiterated that I could not wait to be home on Sunday. She said she couldn't wait and that she loved me. It has been really hard to write and relive this, but when I got home, I parked out by the front of the building on the street, and when I walked through the code gate, I couldn't see lights on up by our balcony. I did see Y's lights on, so I assumed X would be at her place. I didn't even have to enter, as her place was on ground level, and I saw through her window she was on her couch watching TV alone. I figured maybe X was out, so I walked up our 3 flights of stairs, and as I approached the door, I could hear it, and my heart just sank. The sound of R&B music, moaning and knocking. The door wasn't even locked, and with the way it's positioned, opening the door gave a direct view of our bedroom. I just slightly opened the door and saw my girlfriend straddled on top of who I instantly recognized to be a guy from the gym we go to. I think what stood out to me more was that it looked like it was unprotected sex, as I could see everything. I quietly closed the door and my soul just felt like it floated out of me. I knew they never heard me or noticed the door. I sat on the step for a good 5 minutes to process. This has always been my worst nightmare, but to literally have it play out exactly how I dreaded, another man in our bed just gripped at the heart. I couldn't cry as it felt so surreal. Was this really happening? Was I dreaming? The continued sounds quickly brought me back to earth. I got up and walked out of the building and towards the front gate. Y had spotted me through the window and called out to me and waved, gesturing for me to come over. I do get along very well with her, and in the past she had told X how highly she thought of me as a friend too. She had also openly told X that she found me attractive and asked if I had single friends who were also my nationality, from New Zealand. There had always been chemistry between us the first time I met Y, but that always stayed buried in my mind. I put on a brave face and walked into her apartment. We hugged and she asked what I was doing home early. I told her I had dates mixed up and wasn't she supposed to be having birthday drinks with X? She seemed confused and told me that X said she was going out for drinks with some of our gym friends. Go figure. I instantly burst out in tears and cried for what felt like forever, and she got quite worried asking what was wrong, did something happen to me, etc. I struggled for words but blurted out that I had just walked in on the 2 of them in our bed. Her face turned so white and she just hugged me and started to cry too. She knew I was a joker, but I think she knew this was no joke. I just started talking out of frustration, saying that I didn't know what to do, that they could be up there all night, and that this was my nightmare. We had no issues in our relationship other than her lack of interest in sex once every 6 weeks. It's a wonder I lasted 3 years with her, and I had accepted that a long time ago. Y laughed through her tears and told me she had always been single and not had sex the entire time she knew me, and joked that maybe we could both use it. That actually made me laugh a bit too, and I hugged her, thanked her, and for a second forgot X was upstairs cheating on me. I asked her if I could stay there for the night as I had nowhere to go, and I slept on the couch. I am still here a day later. I watched the guy leave in the morning and watched in tears when he came back this evening. I'm supposed to be home tomorrow afternoon. I haven't texted X all day, but she hasn't texted me either. Truth be told, the only comfort I have now is with Y. How do I deal with X? Do I walk up there and interrupt? Do I call? Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their views, opinions, and advice. I'm still trying to keep up with reading the comments. I appreciate those saying I should have had a backbone or spine. To be honest, I'd be saying the same things to someone else. This is my first experience with infidelity, so it was easier to judge until it actually happened to me. Anywho, before I tell you what has happened today, I will answer a few questions. Me. I have my own business and run it end to end by myself. I travel maybe 3 times a year to meet with production facilities and do quality checks for my product. Physically, I am 6 feet 6 inches, 124 kilograms, and I play rugby and have done a lot of boxing, so I can definitely defend myself. However, I do not go around using that. I absolutely tower over that piece of crap guy in every way. I earn a very comfortable living, as does X, so a split will not financially cripple either of us. And we're not married. The tears have been shed. I realize this was a blessing in disguise, and I know what I need to do. Apartment. We split all the bills 50-50 and have 4 months and a week left on a year-long lease which has both our names on it. We had been actively looking for a home to buy. I guess I dodged a bullet there. Why? What a woman. Aside from her personality, she is absolutely gorgeous. How she is and always has been single, I will never know, and she has not been intimate with anyone in over 3 years, according to X. She has been on my side through it all without saying a cruel word about X. She understands it was a bad thing to do towards me and that it does not involve her. That being said, she has said once X inevitably owns up to it, she will likely stop being friends with her. She has not tried to come on to me like a rebound and has just been super supportive. That alone speaks volumes to her character. X works in a hospital and is very attractive. Nice woman, but can be quite self-centered. In hindsight, we were basically just friends. We have only ever had protected sex because she does not want to get pregnant or go on the pill, and it was once in a blue moon. I guess I just accepted it and got too comfortable in the relationship being what it was. I'm just trying to get my head around how she never even showed signs that she was cheating. I know I'm not perfect, but I have always been good to her, always cooked for her, and did a lot around the house. We went on dates regularly. I told her things about her to make her feel loved, and I always got brushed off after what I thought was a good night. I now question why. If she didn't want me, why did she stay for so long? My plan. I intended to call her this morning to say my flight would be leaving earlier and that could she pick me up at the airport earlier. With the airport being a 40-minute drive away, I would use this time to go up and pack all of my things and rush them to my car. Y said I could put some of it in her spare room. Once X noticed my things missing, she would try to call me, message me, etc., and I would simply respond with a photo of the two of them in bed. After reading comments, I decided the cruelest punishment for her would be to have no closure. I would explain to the property manager my circumstances and go and stay with a friend until I could find a new place. X could cover the rent. She could certainly afford it. I do have the option to stay with Y, but that is way too close to X and I do not want to do anything with Y that could ruin our friendship, even though I know her and I are inevitable. The outcome. I went up very early in the morning and very quietly opened the door. Fortunately, they were asleep on the bed, so I took a photo of them, but it was weird. I almost felt guilty about violating privacy when my entire relationship was violated. I did not feel sad anymore, just angry and betrayed. I noticed his shoes on the floor next to my various, much larger pairs. I decided to take a photo of those and use it first. I figured it would be a more subtle way that she would likely lie about until I hit her with the photo of them in bed. I went back down to Y's and waited around for another hour or so until I was certain X would be awake. I tried to call but got no answer, and twice again to no answer. I looked at Y and we both just knew what was happening. After about a half hour, she called me and sounded very much awake and like everything was very much normal. I tried to put on my normal voice and told her my flight was leaving 2 hours earlier than I thought. I asked if she could collect me at 1 p.m. She said yes and that she loved me, that she was at her parents for breakfast and that they said hello. Lie. On that note, her parents love me and will be broken about this. I went and laid down for a few hours to run through what I would get from the apartment. Other than clothes and a few appliances, most of my stuff was already boxed as I knew that if we bought a house, I wanted an easy move. Around midday, I saw X go down to the car park and I gave it a few minutes after she left before I moved my car and went upstairs. It smelled like air freshener and I noticed new sheets and covers on the bed. All the dishes were done. She went to every length to cover up that anyone else had ever been there. It took me all but 10 minutes to gather all of my things. If I forgot anything, I probably didn't care about it. It did feel weird knowing it would be a goodbye to the place I called home, but I felt strong. X sent me a message asking where I was as she was at the arrivals area. I replied and said I was held up and that I would Uber home. Maybe an hour later, a bunch of missed calls and messages came in asking where all of my stuff was and if something had happened. My heart nearly beat out of my chest when I sent the photo of the shoes saying these aren't my size. She had the audacity to reply saying that they were her brother's from when he picked her up to go to mom and dad's. Did I not say she would pull something like that? I didn't even want to discuss it, but I knew she was cornered, so I sent the photo of them in bed and I left it at that. She did not even try to call. I was expecting a wave of calls or texts. In my eyes, that was me leaving her, and I know I could have called her out or caught them in the act and confronted them, but I wanted her to know I knew and that she would never be able to know how or explain herself. I will not tarnish her name as it is not in my nature and I do not want to ruin her life, but she can live with this forever, although I doubt she has a conscience. I have left wise as I know X will be down to see her soon, and I met my friends nearby collecting today's rundown to relay to you all. If it were not for Y, this would have been a lot harder, but I know she will sever her friendship with X in the next day or two. I am doing well and looking ahead. This hurt at first, but I'm glad I found out now and not after we bought a home. I have sent an email to the property manager informing her of our sudden split and that she would be covering the rent until the lease ended and that she could keep the bond. I think the pain for X will be when Y and I begin our inevitable relationship. Good for you, OP, glad to hear that you didn't tolerate any of the crap your ex has put you through and have immediately moved on. You do not need to give her any kind of closure whatsoever. She needs to suffer the consequences for her actions and the pain she has caused you. If I were you, I would not get involved with Y right now. I feel like it is too early for you to do that. Instead, I would call your friends and family, tell them everything that happened, and ask if you can stay with them temporarily for the time being. If you're on a lease with her, then contact your landlord and tell them what happened so that you can get taken off. I wish you the best with your situation, OP. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's story. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's story. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an incredibly shocking and nerve-wracking story for you. It's about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one man went to uncover the truth. Imagine discovering that the person you love most in the world might be hiding something so devastating that it could destroy your entire life together. Well, that's exactly what happened in today's story. So, sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for, I caught my wife's affair with the butler and it got worse when I fired him. 10 years into our marriage, I became very wealthy thanks to the percentage of ownership I had in my father's company. So, I bought my loyal and lovely wife a mansion for us to live in, which came with a butler who was prepared to take care of all the undesirable chores. My work schedule was pretty spontaneous because I could visit the office as I pleased or work from home. Our marriage and life together for the next 20 years after that were blissful other than some odd moments and occurrences. One day, I arrived home from work to find the butler with my wife, standing side by side doing dishes. She was drying, the easier part, but I didn't understand why she was willingly doing any of the chores and standing so close to him. Their elbows touched a few times, and I coughed to let them know I was there. My wife jumped, but he just moved away from her a little bit. She said she felt bad he was in here all by himself, so she wanted to keep him company and help a bit. She was so cheery and warm, I couldn't tell if she had any ill intentions. Another time, I came home to find her lounging in the pool with the butler gardening and staring at her. They laughed a few times before I came out to greet them. It was clear that they were at least friends, but I didn't like how friendly they were. I thought I was just being controlling and jealous, so I accepted that my wife was friends with and cared about the butler. What was the harm in that if I trusted my wife of 17-ish years at this point? We spent every moment I wasn't busy together. I loved her, and I could tell she loved me. Yet another odd occurrence was when I walked upstairs to find the butler closing our bedroom door. It had been hours since I was upstairs because my wife was still sleeping. It was odd, and I asked him if she called for him. He jumped when I spoke and turned around sheepishly, although I could tell he wanted to act normal. He stammered and said she called to ask him for some water. I accepted that for a moment, but reminded him that he was not to enter our bedroom or open the door. He didn't know what to say besides, "Yes, sir." He walked away quickly, and I opened the door to find my wife in her panties drinking water. I asked her if the butler saw her like that, and she said no, she just took off her robe again. I was skeptical. I was heavily considering hiring a new butler. It seemed like she was flirty with him, at least, and I didn't like that he was most likely in our bedroom with my wife in her panties. Before I could terminate him, I saw him smelling my wife's panties. I know, it's really bad, really ballsy. I caught him on the security camera. I told him that was unacceptable and made my wife really uncomfortable. I didn't even tell her about it, but when I told him she was uncomfortable, he instantly looked like he didn't believe me. That ticked me off. I told him he was fired. I hired someone else, this time a female maid, since I knew my wife was straight. I decided that even if I was jealous and protective, it was a smart decision. 1 week later, I arrived home to find the maid outside gardening. I went upstairs and found the butler I fired coming out of our bedroom once again, except this time he was dressed in regular, but still kind of formal, clothes. He looked at me like he was amused, but inconvenienced because I was there and saw him. I asked him what he was doing in my house again, and he told me my wife hired him for something else. He said it with such nerve, all I wanted to do was punch his smug face. I told him to leave and not to come back, no matter what my wife told him. As he walked away, I went into the bedroom and found my wife wearing a skimpy little nightgown. I asked her what was happening, and she looked nervous. She said I was home earlier today than the week before, and I told her she always knew my schedule was spontaneous and not to change the subject. She turned red and told me I was freaking out over nothing. I asked her why she couldn't explain why she was here in her skimpy nightgown after the butler I fired just came out of the room. She was pretty stunned and said she hired him back for things around the house the maid couldn't handle. I asked if one of those things was helping her with her personal plumbing and lubrication. Her jaw dropped, and she couldn't look me in the eye. Her cheeks must have been burning, they were so red. It looked like blood vessels in her face were showing up. It was crazy. Her face never turned that red in all the 30 years we were together. She finally said in a weak voice that if he did help her with that, it was nothing against me. I told her that it most definitely was against me because she belonged to me. We were life partners, and only I was permitted to help her with her plumbing and lubrication. She said she wouldn't ask him to help her again, and asked me not to worry about it anymore. I asked if that meant she was admitting to sleeping with him, and she was silent. She nodded yes very minimally, with her eyes watering. Then she started speaking really fast about how it didn't matter, she just considered it a job, nothing meaningful that would take away from our marriage, and she needed me to forget about it so that nothing changed between us. I told her this was most certainly going to change things between us, and it already took everything away from our marriage. I told her we were over, called her a name, and told her to get out of my home. I was extremely careful to get a post-nup signed after I came into more money. It's not that I didn't trust my wife at the time, it was because my father and I were lawyers, which means I couldn't ever be made the fool. So my wife sorrowfully packed her bags. She had too many bags for someone with nowhere to go. The butler came to pick her up in the car he afforded with the paychecks I gave him. They stayed in a motel where the butler had been staying after I fired him. My wife had so many belongings, clothes, that she had to leave some of it behind, which I immediately told the maid to sell on eBay, or keep for herself. They stayed in that motel as long as they could, but their money ran out without me signing the checks. They tried to contact me, individually, blaming each other for what occurred and asking me to take them back into the mansion. It was gratifying that they were turning on each other and failing to survive or do anything with their lives. Even to this day, my ex still tries to ask me for help and gives me some updated sob stories about where she is in life. It is not glamorous, it's far from what she was accustomed to with me. I've become something like Bruce Wayne in town, and I have no complaints. Even though her betrayal hurt, I knew from the moment I found out that I could recover from it. Not because of my money, but because I know what love is. And it wasn't that. I am sorry your wife couldn't see what a great life she had with you. I honestly feel like the attention and sexual tension she experienced with the butler was too much for her immature brain to handle. It was a man in close proximity to her that she shouldn't sleep with, no matter how much he would have been willing. He obviously paid her attention, and when their friendship developed, she couldn't keep her legs closed. I believe she was egotistical and materialistic, and didn't have the respect she should for her providing and loyal husband. What this type of woman needs to understand is that resisting temptation pays off in the end. No man should be able to convince them to disrespect themselves and their spouses by breaking their vows and trust. I'm not sure what happened in your wife's head, but we are all here for you to offer support. Now let's get into our second story for today. One fateful day, when my wife went to work, she forgot her phone. I took the opportunity to check it, and was appalled by what I found. I should have known what was going on, because my wife, 25, was extremely excited about going to work suddenly. She said it was because she became in charge of a business task that she really enjoyed. It was something like designing different abstract images each day for a newsletter. I, 28, believed her. She was a good girl, and I was proud of her for earning us additional income for living expenses. The only other dead giveaway was that she didn't want to have sex as often, but then I knew why. It was because she was sexting with a coworker, sending pictures, and talking about the sex they had. It was disgusting. I drove to her work immediately. I backed up all the stuff for her phone, because although she wasn't getting it back, it was going to be deactivated. I brought it with me, and started by showing the receptionist, who I only met once before. Then I asked her if I could get a guest pass to go have lunch with my wife. She giggled and gave me one. She knew I was sarcastically infuriated, and this was going to be a heck of a show. She followed me in, putting up a "be back in 5 minutes" sign that she scribbled out. Everyone looked up from their desks to see me. I must have looked determined and angry. I asked everyone to gather around, and they did. I said I had some news to share about somewhere they all knew well. They were all sparkly-eyed with gossip endorphins when they found out who I was talking about. People started looking around for AP and my wife. AP came out of the bathroom just then, and we all looked at him. I announced that there was a guy who had the audacity to sleep with my wife. Some of the coworkers started shouting out insults at him. Among these, he was called despicable. Just then, my wife's head peeked out of her office. When she saw everyone looking at her, she went back inside and shut the door. Now everyone knew what my wife and AP looked like naked. Some girls whispered that they knew something was going on between them. Coworkers took the time to print/draw signs that said slanderous insults and taped them on my wife's office door. I thanked them for their creativity and left, wondering where the boss was that allowed all this to happen. When my wife got back to the house, I already had the locks changed. She took the stuff I let her have to AP's house. They both quit their jobs that day and walked out shamefully. In our town, there was just one major employer for like half the population. So when I shared with people the things my wife talked about and took pictures of, everyone in the area knew about it or saw it. It didn't take long for them to decide to move about 500 miles west. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Since she moved out of state, our divorce was made final through the mail. She didn't ask me for anything, thank God, but I would have been able to prove her infidelity anyway. She was done with me and the embarrassing past she was trying to forget. I felt the same way about her and couldn't be happier with the choice I made. OP, I am sorry your wife behaved like an untrustworthy office cheater. It's hard to get as low as a person who cheats on their spouse while utilizing their trust to earn income for the family. What are they even working for if not to improve the life they have at home? If they honestly believe the person they start an affair with at work or anywhere is better than the spouse they have at home, they're wrong. The grass may seem greener on the other side. Finding a person with a new set of features, issues, habits, goals, and interests is completely unnecessary. It is only a shame when a marriage or union ends because one spouse thought they found better in someone else or just thought they could effortlessly manage two serious relationships. Really, the only grounds for divorce, the proper way to end a marriage, is when one person absolutely cannot or will not honestly communicate with the other person. Thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate your bravery and bold confrontation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more